You can stop performing the version of yourself that kept you safe. That's the message arriving from the Morrigan of Ireland, the goddess of sovereignty and shadow power, and she has stepped forward to help you today. Hi, love. Welcome to your Timeless Mythos reading. I am so grateful you're here. Whether you're returning or finding our circle for the first time, please know you are welcome, wanted, and completely safe here with me and my guides. I'm Christina. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine and an intuitive channel. And today's reading will move through 3 parts. First is the myth itself, the story of the archetype who came forward for you. Then the deeper healings that is stirring in your life right now. And then finally your full reading, so you can receive guidance on the shifting dynamics. Because this is a collective reading, please take what resonates, go ahead and leave the rest. Someone else needs that part. When something does land for you, like the video to claim the energy into your life. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so future Mythos messages can tune even more clearly to your frequency. Now let's anchor into awareness of the present moment and step back into the mythos together. Before Ireland had kings or borders, before battles carved fate into the land, there was a woman who walked the edge between worlds, where mist meets earth, where life meets destiny. They called her the Morrigan. She did not arrive with trumpets, nor did she demand worship. She appeared when something was about to change, when a truth needed to be spoken, when a life needed to break open, when a person stood at the threshold of becoming someone they weren't sure they were ready to be. One tale speaks of a young warrior, burdened by doubt, terrified not of death, but of the magnitude of his own potential. On the eve of battle, as fear gnawed at his resolve, a crow landed beside him, watching with unsettling intelligence. Just a moment later, the crow became a woman cloaked in darkness, her eyes reflecting every truth he was afraid to face. She asked him the question no one had ever dared ask. Which terrifies you more, your enemy or the strength you've denied? The warrior trembled because he knew. He had been raised to obey, to swallow his words, to hide the fire in his chest. His whole life he had feared that if he ever unleashed his truth, his anger, his desire, his instinct, it would make him monstrous. The Morrigan stepped closer. Her voice was not gentle, but it was honest. Power becomes monstrous only when you refuse to claim it. Shifted again, first into an old woman whose face carried centuries of endings and beginnings. Then again into a wolf, pacing the boundary between fear and ferocity, and yet again into a crow whose cry pierced the fog and cut straight into the warrior's spine. These were not threats. They were mirrors, and when the battle finally came, he did not win because he was fearless. He won because he finally stopped running from himself. He stepped into the version of himself he had always feared and discovered that the monster in his imagination was simply his destiny wearing a darker face. This is the Morrigan's medicine. She does not comfort you out of your fear. She confronts you into your future. She appears when your old identity is crumbling away, when pretending is no longer survivable, when your power begins to stir beneath your ribs, but you mistake it for danger. This isn't danger. It is you becoming your truest self. The theme in this story today is about stepping into the power that you were taught to fear. You are feeling the tremor of an identity shift before it even happens. But your nervous system knows. Your nervous system is sensing and sharing with you, calling forward that something large is incoming. The thing is, you're not really confused in the way that you're almost pretending that you are. And we all do this. I'm saying this with the utmost love and respect. You're not confused. You're unwilling to name the clarity that you already have. But your old survival strategies are collapsing now. The things that you did that kept you safe in the past, they no longer suit the person you are or the person you're becoming. This people pleasing, this shrinking, this emotional suppression, it just doesn't belong in the life that you're building for yourself. And you might be experiencing symptoms in your body now. A tight chest, a restless mind, lability, emotions surging back and forth, spikes of feeling that feel almost out of control. You may be thinking about medicating yourself out of this, but every sign here is pointing toward not that you are ill, not that you need to change yourself, but that you cannot be any longer the person you have been pretending that you were. The truth here is that you're not actually afraid of the change. You're not actually afraid of how other people react. You are most afraid of the version of you who will no longer apologize for existing. So the truth here is that your shadow self that you've been denying, that you've been stuffing down, that you've been refusing to see because it is so uncomfortable for other people, your shadow self, this overwhelming sense of yourself, is your actual power trying to resurface. These shadow emotions, these are your suppressed clarity, which means that the anger that you've refused to allow to come into your open, this is your boundaries. Anger has an energetic directionality to it. All emotions do. And the direction of anger is upward and outward. It is a pushing away energy that says, I am sovereign and I deserve to protect myself. I will not tolerate, I will not stand for things that are harmful to me. Your grief is from the way that you abandoned yourself in order to keep the peace. And grief is a sinking energy. And we feel it. Our lung is what holds the grief, and our lung holds the boundaries. It holds our activation in the presence of threat, in the presence of danger. And this grief is here because you have ignored the deepest knowing of your being for so long, because you abandoned yourself repeatedly to keep others comfortable. And this shows up in Chinese medicine. We see it. Your liver is where the anger is going to rise from. You have been suppressing your anger. You have been suppressing your boundaries. And that means you've been suppressing your truth. You've been suppressing your sovereignty. You've been suppressing the calling of every part of your soul. And so when you can no longer contain that, when your spirit is ready to cry out, no more, is when this anger surges, these migraines come to the forefront, these headaches, these symptoms of digestive distress, of full body pain. Your body is saying to you, I cannot constrain or suppress myself any longer. Your body here is trying to remember the self, trying to return to the self that you exiled to keep you safe. And the Morrigan wants you to know that you are not too much. You have never been too much. In fact, in this reclaiming of yourself, you will finally be just enough. The key here is to understand that your shadow isn't actually the wound. Your shadow is the strength that formed around it. So the opportunity, the the claiming of your sovereignty here, of claiming the real destiny of your spirit. You came into this lifetime with a curriculum, with something that you were going to learn in order to adapt and overcome and become the fullest self that your spirit wanted to express in this lifetime. This requires that you step out of relational survival mode and into the realm of self-authorship. Your body has been telling you that it can no longer tolerate the misalignment that comes when you lie to yourself about who you truly are. Your symptoms are going to intensify around this dishonesty. And this is the collapse of the false identities that you can no longer tolerate. This is your psyche making room for the truth of your body, mind, and spirit. Destiny in the Morrigan's world isn't just about a fate that happens to you from the outside. It is a self-claiming, a stepping into your true power, your true authority, letting every illusion fall away. The choices that you've been postponing, that you've been putting off because you knew they would be uncomfortable, because you knew they might not be welcomed by others, these choices are demanding your attention now. Accepting your sovereignty, claiming your own internal power is not a rebellion against others. This is remembering who you were before the world taught you that it was safest to be small. The invitation is to become the version of yourself who no longer hides. And this isn't a destruction. This is an emergence. You are invited to cross a threshold your soul has been waiting for years. Crossing that space where clarity will become non-negotiable, where you accept fully that stability comes from core truth, not from a performance of the roles others want you to play. And my love, the Morrigan is standing right beside you, telling you to act now while the portal is open. You are ready for what you thought would ruin you. Your power is not the threat. It is the pathway to your becoming. Here are the messages from the Morrigan while I shuffle the cards for your reading. You've been standing on the edge of your future, pretending you're not ready. But you are. You're not lost. You are shedding a self that cannot come with you. Your instincts are not chaos. They are direction. Your fear isn't a stop sign. It is the doorway into power. You're done performing. You're done shrinking. Step into the version of you who doesn't hide when the truth arrives. The Morrigan says your destiny is awake, and it is time you were too. We're entering now into your card reading as we look at the energies that are shaping your opportunity as we connect in with the Morrigan. This beautiful, strong, fierce energy. And on this card, it says, with bravery and foresight, I shape my destiny. Here we're going to start. Oh, how interesting. With the energy underneath this reading is love. And what I'm hearing very clearly is actually self-love. It is this idea of refusing to abandon yourself any longer, loving the wholeness of yourself so that you can actually integrate these shadow pieces. So you can integrate the parts of yourself that you have refused to allow to be in the forefront of the way you are perceived by the world, that you have abandoned or rejected, thinking that that was how you had to secure love, how you had to keep yourself safe. True self-love comes from integrating and accepting every single part of who you really are, not just the bits that might be most acceptable to others, but everything about the person that is you. Now, this reading is going to move in several different parts. We're first looking at the energy that you are coming into the reading with, this underlying. We're then going to take a look at what you might not be seeing, what's hidden underneath, and we'll pull more clarifiers in order to find the future that is calling to you, the opportunity for transformation and for healing that the Morrigan is trying to share with you today. We're starting with the Mother of Pentacles, so the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. Queen of Pentacles is someone who is very solid in her world, in her energy, and in her identity. And we're seeing you're coming in here in the reverse. You are at this threshold. You are at this place of opportunity, yet you're not really in this harvest energy, because Queen of Pentacles is harvesting the fruits of everything that has come before. She is so settled and strong in that, in her identity and her world, which has been slowly and carefully crafted. And here we're seeing instead, in the reverse, this opportunity to shape yourself, to really look at, why do I feel so unsettled? Why don't I feel solid in my world and my love? With the Morrigan here, it is because there is a threshold that you've not been willing yet to step through. So let's see what we have here. We have strength, we have the 6 of Pentacles, and we have the 10 of Cups. The Strength card is very much about our internal strength, our inner resilience. This isn't about brute force strength, and we talked about that in the myth of the Morrigan that we covered at the beginning of this video. This idea of strength with the Morrigan is very much about my resilience, my persistence, my inner strength, where I am willing to align myself with the true fullness of who I am, with this love energy. Nothing about this, even though she is a battle goddess, it is more about my internal battle, my internal struggle with accepting my own strength, my own power in all the different disguises that I may wear or that I may have worn. Will you allow yourself, allow this inner strength to come to the forefront as we get into 6 of Pentacles and 10 of Cups energy? 6 of Pentacles is very much about earning, about being given what you've earned, right? There's generosity, there's sort of give and receive, give and take energy that can come in. But here we're seeing, especially in this internal threshold energy with the Morrigan, this opportunity to receive from your spirit what you have earned through your difficult experiences, including the self-abandonment that we were talking about before. You didn't do that for fun. You did that to earn safety, to source safety. And the opportunity here is to say, but what if all these pieces of myself that had to come to the forefront, my defense mechanisms, the ways that I've behaved in order to protect myself, what if I could receive from them the gifts that they actually came into my life to give me? And that's what leads to 10 of Cups. This is pure happiness. This is pure joy that comes as I integrate all of these pieces together, as I allow myself to be the wholeness of who and what I actually am, not the pretty parts, not just that, all of the parts, including the pretty bits, including the sweet and gentle bits, but the wholeness of yourself. And then sing, ooh, the Death card, transformation, okay? Big transformation energy. This is what you're coming into the reading with. Being ready to let go of these disguises. Having your bravery, having your courage, having your strength to let go of this Pentacles in reverse, of this settledness in reverse, of the things that you built that don't actually serve you. Bringing this strength in and letting those parts of yourself actually die. The part of yourself that does self-abandon, the part of yourself that wants to please others at your own expense, the part of yourself that refuses to speak your truth and your world into being. You can be brave. You can marshal this strength and shape your own destiny as you allow this process to unfold. Now, we got a whole bunch of cards here Okay, as we're looking at this idea of what you may not be seeing. So you may not have been honoring your feelings, the need to honor your feelings, to go for it. And this is from the Moonology deck. Attend to the details and open up to change. So really seeing here this, it's okay to honor, even in this process, to honor the fear that you experience, to honor the unsettledness that each of us has when we're approaching a threshold. There is nothing comfortable about becoming. There is nothing comfortable about stepping into your power. It is frightening. It is uncomfortable. It is not always fun, okay? But go for it. Mind the details here. Now that is interesting. Minding the details of what you are calling in, of what you are allowing, of who you are becoming, and letting yourself open up to this change that you are being invited into. So I'm going to pull clarifiers here as we look at the opportunity for transformation that the Morrigan is calling you into. Okay. So let's see what we have from the Black Cat Tarot, Tarot de los Gatos Negro. Now, how interesting. We have the Queen of Pentacles again in the upright, covering the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. So you're being called to really settle into yourself, okay? To settle into your strength of power. And here we have Ace of Swords energy. It is in the reverse. Ace of Swords is this new inspiration, this new adventure, this new calling. You're settling into something that isn't actually new. It's not entirely new. This is something you're familiar with. And I think it's interesting that it's on top of the strength card. We ended up with 5 cards, overlaying 5 cards. So seeing here, moving from Queen of Pentacles in the reverse to Queen of Pentacles in the upright, this settledness, this anchoredness, this rootedness into yourself. And then from the strength card, this need to marshal your resources into Ace of Swords in the reverse, this energy that this isn't actually a new battle. You know your internal resilience. When you're really honest with yourself, no matter how difficult the past has been, in fact, because the past has been difficult, you know how much strength you have. You know your capacity to achieve and to overcome the challenges in front of you. And so allowing this swords energy, this inspiration, this new idea, it's really more a new way, less a brand new idea or a brand new adventure, and more a new way of approaching what does it mean to be strong? What does it mean to really apply myself in a persistent, ongoing way to the accomplishment of what I want and what I love? And then we have here, this is our Fool energy. So as we look at 6 of Pentacles, and now we have Fool in reverse. And so that 6 of Pentacles was about you're going to get what you've earned, right? Or this wanting to receive what you've earned, wanting to experience that. And Fool in reverse, the Fool is stepping out on a new road, right? It's not that far off from this Ace of Swords. And it's interesting that both of these new beginning cards are in reverse. So again, this isn't an entirely new journey for you. You're someone who's done so much self-work. You're someone who has done so much shadow work, who has really tried very, very hard to embrace this energy, to shape your destiny. And we're seeing here there's this ability, there's this capacity, there's this invitation from the Morrigan's energy, this goddess of the thresholds, goddess of transformations, to settle into this. It's not an entirely new beginning, and yet at the same time, we have to always be willing to begin again, to step again and again into this deepening of this process. We don't do self-work and then it's done forever. We spiral deeper and deeper in as we learn the lessons that our life has brought for us. We have the 3 of Wands in reverse, and then our last card is the Temperance in the upright. How interesting. So 3 of Wands in reverse, 3 of Wands is all about progress, and it's covering here the 10 of Cups. So we're seeing here that you don't have to journey so far for your happiness to come in. Okay? It doesn't have to be that long of a journey. It doesn't have to be that difficult. Again, this is the harvesting of what you've already started, of the work that you've been doing. So there's this allowing energy, like, yes, there's more work. Yes, there's more progress to be made. Yes, it's still a spiritual journey. And it's not it's not a brand new thing that you're approaching here. It's a deepening, it's an enriching, it's a refining energy here. As again, you look at claiming these parts of yourself with the deepest love that you've been rejecting in order to accomplish yet another level of wholeness, another level of integration and acceptance of your own inner power in the truest way. And our last card here, the second upright in our clarifiers, covering the Death card, the card of transformation, is the card of temperance, of internal alchemy, right? We're going to pour this substance and it is going to transform by finding balance and by not pushing so hard. So we think when we're thinking of internal battles, sometimes, and I did say, there's these parts of you that have to die. And yet there's this invitation for that to be gentle, for this to be an alchemy of balance, an alchemy of kindness for yourself in this process of letting go. I think that maybe you felt in the past that you had to be really harsh, that you had to be very cutting or even cruel to yourself. You do not have to whip yourself to cross this finish line. You're on this journey. You are on this pathway of self-discovery, of exploration, of empowerment, and embracing your whole divinity and your wholeness as a person. So allow this inner alchemy to happen with gentleness, with some refinement. Let's get one final card from the universe to close this powerful message of transformation. Oh, those went so far. Okay, I'm going to grab them though. Diving for the cards. Okay, we have White Buffalo Calf Woman as integrity, a curandera as healing, and the river as surrender. So having that internal integrity, as we look at this love, as we look at clarity and honesty in this process, to really actually, and when I say integrity, it's that knowing what you actually know, letting yourself know what you know, who you actually are, not who you're supposed to be. Not who other people have told you you're supposed to be, or who your internal self-critical voice is telling you that you're supposed to be, but who you actually are. Have the integrity to walk in that. You are who you're supposed to be. You were born and you have been becoming who you are supposed to be. There is no mistake that has been made here. Curandera, the healing aspect of this. And as we look at this loving all parts of yourself and opening up to change, from the cards we had previously. Let this integration be a healing process for yourself, this empowerment to be a healing process for yourself of recognizing and embracing your inherent wholeness that has always been here. And finally, the river, surrendering to the flow, surrendering to this process of release, of death and rebirth and inner alchemy with temperance. You don't have to push so hard. You don't have to force. You don't have to strive. This is happening. This is yours. This is you. This is you. We're not talking about imposing some new idea from the outside. We're talking about letting who you actually are be closer, like closing the gap between who you actually are and who you present to the world, between who your spirit is and who you let yourself admit that you are. Surrender into this process. Surrender to the brilliance of your divine spirit, being just exactly right as who you are, as who you were born to be. There is no higher vision or higher version of yourself that doesn't have these shadow aspects. They are a part of who you are. This is your power. This is who you were born to be. Surrender to the divine perfection of that, and you will be amazed at the ways that your life shifts. If you want to receive the deeper energetic transmission from today's archetype, I've channeled some messages for you. They're linked in the description box below. When you're ready, give them a listen and let them meet you where you are. Thank you for being here, love. Thank you for showing up for your own story with courage and an open heart. And until next time, be gentle with yourself, okay?